Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how I make this beautiful wrap dress on the screen. It's a requested tutorial. If you are interested to join us in our social media platform where you can be part of the family and request for styles, illustrations and what you would love to see on this channel, I will drop the link on the description below. If this is your first time on this channel, please share, like and subscribe because it really helps. And if you are a returning subscriber, please watch this video to the end. God bless you all. So these are the measurements I use for the pattern. I divided all my measurements by 2 to achieve a half scale pattern. So shoulder width is 7.5. Normally our shoulder we divide it by 2, right? So dividing the 7.5 that I use on this video by 2, I have 3.75. Then neck width I have 1.5. Slope I use half an inch. Then bust, my bust circumference is 38, but in this video I divide my bust measurement by 2, which I have 19 inches. So I'm going to make use of 19 inches as my bust circumference on this video. So 19 inches divided by 4, I have 4.75. Then my waist, my actual waist is 30 divided by 2, I have 15. Then because I'm going to draft a half scale pattern, I divide my waist by 2, which I have 15. So 15 divided by 4, I have 3.75. Sorry about that. Then I have my horizontal measurement set. Then my horizontal measurement, I have shoulder to neck depth 1.5. Then shoulder to bust point or shoulder to nipple point, I have 5. Then my shoulder to waist or half length, I have 8. All right, so I'm going to draft the pattern now and come back to show you. So this is my pattern that I have drafted. I use all the measurement that I show on the screen earlier to draft this pattern. So this is my shoulder point, my shoulder line or my guideline, right? I left half an inch up in order for me to add my shoulder seam allowance. Then I come down half an inch for my slope. Then I measure my armhole depth, which is I use my shoulder for my armhole, the way we get usually achieve our armhole, right? So I come down with what I have here. So my shoulder measurement, I have 7.5 divided by 2, which is 3.75. So this is the 3.75 I have there. Then after coming half an inch for my slope, then from this half an inch I come down 3.75 again. Then I mark the midpoint. Then my chest, I use the 3.75 that come down here. So this became my chest line. So from this chest line I have to bring out my bust measurement. So you can actually follow this with how you draft your basic body pattern. This is just the basic body pattern draft already. I'm going to show a detailed tutorial on how I go about my basic body pattern, but in this video I'm just going to show you how I achieve this, right? So looking at it alone, you should know how to draft your basic body pattern, right? So if you know how to draft your basic pattern, please go ahead and draft it the way you understand it. So because I'm using a half scale, that's the reason why I want to still pull you through on how I go about it. So on this place, this is my chest line. On my chest line I have to divide my bust circumference, which is on this tutorial I'm using 19 inches as my bust circumference. That is the round my bust area. So 19 inches divided by 4, I have 4.75. So I measure from here to here 4.75. Then I mark 1 inch for side seam allowance. Then at my bust, I measure from my neck width or my guideline down for my bust point. So I use 5 inch here. Normally my for my guideline or for my shoulder point to my bust point, I usually use 10 inches. Because I'm drafting a half scape pattern, I use 5 inches. So from there to my waist, and I have 8 inches. My half scale is 16, but because I'm drafting a half scale pattern, I use 8 inches, and this is half an inch for the to join back with the skirt, right? So then I use half an inch for my dart, which is what I have taken out of this place. Then I use 1 inch for my side seam. So just go ahead and draft your basic body pattern. Looking at it, you can know how the chest, this is my bust, this is my chest, and this is my waist, this is my half an inch for joining to the down part of my blouse, this is my dart, and this is my side seam. Then after coming down half an inch for my slope, I use this place as my seam allowance. Then this is my neck width. Then I go up half an inch and connect it back here. So this will be my seam allowance. So this is this for the front. Then for the back, I have drafted this too for the back. So in the same way you draft your basic pattern for back pattern, so that's the same way you will still use for this. And for this, I use 1 inch for my zip allowance. Then I come in half an inch and connect it up to avoid zip budging on my blouse. Then from here, I measure my waist divided by 4. In this tutorial, I'm using waist 15. That is my round waist 15 divided by 4 is 3.75. So this is my 3.75, right? Then 3.75 to here. Then I mark half an inch for my dart. Then I mark 1 inch for my side seam. Then the same way I use the same half an inch for slope. Then the same length for my armhole. Then mark the midpoint. Here I come in half quarter of an inch, while on the front I come in half an inch. So that's just the difference. Then I also use the same length that I use from the front one, from here to here, the same length that I use from here to here. Then my bust circumference, I'm using 19 inches divided by 4 is 4.7, right? So from here to here is 4.75. So that's what I have here. But because the dart is not going to be taken at this region, I did not add that the dart allowance here. Just for the waist that I add the dart. So I use the half an inch. I use the 1 inch rather for my side seam. I also mark it here and connect it to this place. So this is all for the pattern. I also do my half an inch for my shoulder, to join my shoulder back. Then normal, if I want to do my back depth, my back pattern, the depth neckline, I will use half an inch to 1 inch, depending on how low I want it, right? But because this is a half scale pattern, I use quarter of an inch, not up to half an inch. That is what I use here. So then I connect it to my neck width, which is what I have already marked here before. My neck width that I use for the front is what I use for the back, right? So this is all. Then this is the half an inch to join my garment to the down part. So this is all you need for this pattern. So I'm going to cut this out and come back and show you the one next to follow. So I'm cutting it at the side seam to my armhole curve, right? Then you can also, at this point, you can also add your seam allowance at the armhole point. But because I'm using a pattern, I'm going to sew it. I'm not going to sew it right on my fabric. So that's the reason why I did not add seam allowance. Some people also add seam allowance at the neck too, so there is no harm in that. You can also add seam allowance here, you can add seam allowance here. So this is my full pattern now, right? So what I'm going to do now to achieve the wrap, I'm going to turn it this way so you can see how it is already, how beautiful it is. So this is my full pattern now for the front, right? So what I will do next now is that I'm going to measure. This is my center, right? This is the center line. So from this center line, I'm going to measure. If I'm going to use the normal full pattern, which is my complete full basic pattern, I will measure 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple, right? So the wrap is going to fall at my nipple, but because I don't want to, because I'm not using a full basic pattern, I'm using a half scale pattern, I'm going to divide that into two, which is 4 divided by 2, which is 2, right? So I'm going to mark 2 here. So I'm measuring it from the center line. So 2 inches from here, from the center line. So I'm going to connect this now to my neck width. You can see it. So first, from this neck depth that I've made before, which is the 1.5 inches neck depth, I'm going to measure down. I will place my tape rule 1.5 inches away, right? Then I will measure down. On my dress I use 6 inches, but because this is a half scale pattern, I'm going to use 3 inches. So if you are drafting your full body pattern, you are using 6 inches. You can also use 7 inches, depending on how low you want it. That means you wear something on it. But the way I make my own, I don't need to wear anything on it, and I use 6 inches. So divide that 6 inches by 2, we have 3 inches. So this is my 3 inches. So I've come down 3 inches. So the lapping is going to start from this line. So I'm going to connect this now. You can use curve, you can use straight ruler. So you just place your ruler like this and connect it, or you can actually connect it like the way I did my own. I place it like this, then connect it, then remove it and make it a little bit curved, right? So you make it straight here, then you curve this place. See what I'm doing? So I'll turn it this way, then curve it this way, because I don't want this place to choke me. Then I'll curve it this way like this, right? So you can just use your expert on this line. So this is it. So we are going to cut this place off. So this become one of the pattern. Then you can now add half an inch to have a neat finishing. If you want to place lining on it, so I'm going to add the half an inch here like this. So I'm going to cut on this line. Okay, so you can see how it is. So I'm going to cut 2 of this. So assuming this is my pattern now and I want to place it on my fabric, I will fold. So I will place my fabric down, my material. So this, let's assume this is our material now. So you place it, fold it into 2, then you place your pattern on it. So with this now, you don't need to be scared of having the side folded, right? So because the front is going to be lap and there's going to be an opening at the front, so you are going to place your pattern down, folded, then you place your pattern on it, and you pin it down, right? So I'm going to pin it down. So remember that I've already add half an inch for the my shoulder, right? And then I've also add 1 inch for the side seam. So it is this point now that you need the half an inch here. So I've already add the half an inch before, so you need the half an inch here now like this. Then you also need it here like this too, right? So this become the half an inch that you use to finish this edge, right? So I've already add my half an inch too on this place, right? Then you also need to add half an inch or quarter of an inch, depending on the seam allowance you want to use for your armhole, to join your armhole back. So this is what I'm going to need here, right? So this is it. So then I'll also trace out my, let me pin this so that it can be properly placed. So make sure that it is well placed. Then I will have to transfer my dart. So this is my dart. So I'm doing this to transfer the dart on my clothes. Of course, if you want to do it on your clothes, if you are placing this on your clothes, if you place it this way, you will not have the reflection the way I'm having it here. So what you will do is that when you are cutting it, you will notch here, you notch these three places to get your, to able to have the reflection of the dart at your fabric too. So I'm going to cut this now. All right, so this is my fabric now. So I've cut it out already. So I'm going to cut the back pattern too now. So cutting the back pattern, I'll also follow this line. Follow this line. Cut the armhole. Of course, you can also add your half an inch too at your armhole, but I don't think I need that now. So you also cut this place. Then you also cut this. Remember the half an inch you add for your shoulder seam. Then you also cut this back tightening that you did here. So here is it. So then you can also make the dart reflect on the other side. So I'm going to make sure that the dart also show at the other side, right? So this is it. Then I can see it here. So I'm going to place this now. Then place this too. Place this too. All right, so now I have that on the side, right? So this is my pattern. So placing this now so that I can bring out my zip, right? So I can also place this like this so that it will be easy for me when I want to sew. So because I have removed half an inch from here, my zip allowance is not complete again. So I'm going to mark the 1 inch again from here and connect it back to this line at the front, right? So see it here. I'll place it this way. Okay, so I'll place it this way and mark. This is the initial one that I've removed, so I have to mark in 1 inch again. Then I'm going to take it straight to where this line is here, right? So I'm going to rule it now. So this become my zip allowance. So that's it. So to have it on the other side too, I'm going to trace it to mark it on the other side. All right, so this is it. So my zip allowance is going to be this way. So by the time I place it this way, my garment is coming up. So this is it for this, and this is the front one. So, and also this is the center line, right? So I'm going to notch this place like this, then keep this aside. So this is now my new fabric. So I'm going to place it this way. So this is where I notch, right? So this is how it's going to be. So this is the wrap now. You can see how beautiful it is, right? So you now hold it down like this. Then I'm going to sew my dart here, and I will sew my dart here. Then I also need to sew my dart and also sew my dart. Then after I finish sewing the dart, I'll come back and show you how it looks. I've also drafted my skirt pattern. So this is my skirt. I've also, the same way I did for the front, I also use that same method of using my half scale for the pattern, right? So this is my skirt pattern. I use the same waist measurement that I used earlier for the front so that it can align. So my waist circumference is 15, right? So divided by 4 is what I use. This is my front and this is my back. So then my hip circumference is 20 divided by 4, 2 is 5 inches. So this is it, and this is it for the front, and this is this for the back. Then at this the down part, I come in half an inch to tighten, to make it pencil, right? The same way we used to do it. I don't want that at the front of my skirt, and that's the reason why I did not mark that here. But for the back, after measuring the waist circumference divided by 4, I also come in half an inch, which is the data I've already taken here. Then from this line I come in 1 inch, so that's my size seam allowance. So these are the seam allowance, the one for the front and the one for the back. At the back too, at the down part, at the side, I come in half an inch, right, to make it pencil. Then to have my waist shape out, this is my zip allowance. I use 1 inch for my zip allowance. Then on the zip allowance, the same way I did for the front for zip budging, I also come in half an inch. I remove half an inch, connect it to my hip. Then so here I've already sewed the dart, right? So this is the dart for the front wrap. So this is it, the two side dart. I've already sewn it, and this is my center, the midpoint, right? So it meets with this place. So this is how it's going to look. So at this junction you have to use is either bias to tape in and sew the to have this edge finished, or you can actually fold it, the half an inch seam that you use, right? Or you can use lining, cut the same way you cut the fabric too, the same way you cut the lining. Then you place it right side face each other, right? Then you sew this place, right, leave the shoulder. Then you also sew the side too with your seam allowance that you add. You can also leave the armhole, then you leave this place too, then you turn it out from this place. In that way you have closed this region, right? So you can use bias, you can use your lining too, or you can actually fold this place too, right? So that's how to get your wrap pattern. And this is the back side. I've also sewed the dart for the back, and I've also placed the seam allowance for the zip right in place. So this is it. So what I will just do is to place it right side face each other like this. Then I will sew my shoulder. Then to have finishing, to have a neat finishing, you can use your lining. After placing like this, then you place your lining to close it, then sew it like this to have neat finishes. So I'm going to sew it here, then sew it at the side, right? That's to have your full half body pattern, or full pattern panels all stitched together, just to place them with the skirt part, right? So let me just show you how it looks with the down part too. So this is my front for the skirt. You can see how it is. This is it. So you just have to place it this way, so you can see that the full pattern is already set, right? So I just have to place it this way, then place it like this, right, and sew it with my seam allowance, which is the half an inch. Then I will have it full like this, right? Then for the back own, this is my pattern for the my skirt part for the back, right? And this is the zip allowance too. I've already sew it out too. So I will measure from here to somewhere here for my zip. Then this other side will be sewn. Then I've already sewn my dart too, right? So I'm having this is curved this way because my hip, this place is going to accommodate my hip to give me a perfect fit. So if I place this back pattern on it too, it's going to be like this. So this is how it's going to be. So beautiful, right? So it's going to be like this, right? So to achieve the down part, the wrap for the down part, after sewing your dart for your skirt, the back and front for your skirt, then you place the skirt down. You also place the front on it this way. So you place them right side face each other, and you make sure that they align. This is my hip. I notch it and also notch the hip of my skirt. So I'm going to use pin them together and place them, let them align very well. So I've already placed the two together. The front, this is the front and this is the back, right? So both of them are aligned now. So this is my hip. This is where my hip is, where I notched earlier. So at this edge of this pattern, the ending part, I'm going to connect it to this hip in a curved manner. So that's to achieve the wrap. So there are different ways to do this. After you have connect this line together, you measure what you have from here to this place and back to this place. What you have, you times it by 3 or 2.5 or by 2, depending on how full you want the wrap to be, right? Then what you do is to gather it with your sewing machine or with needle and thread. Then you place it on it, gather it on it, and top stitch on it or sew it on it all round. Another way you can do, which is the way I use to achieve my own, is that you have to first, let's trace it out first. So you connect it from this place like this to this edge, right? So that includes the size seam allowance also here too. So after connecting it like this, then you cut it. This is another way to achieve it and to have a neat finishing. Then you cut it this way. So you see. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to measure what I have from here. I will measure it. So this is it. I'm going to measure from this place now, or I can start it from here like this. I'm going to measure it like this. I'll start the measurement from here because I want the wrap to start from this place. So you can come down by what you use to join it to the front. So in this case, we have half an inch. We added half an inch earlier, right? To join back the upper part with the down part. So start from this half an inch now. You are going to measure, so this hip where the break point start from, here I have 5. Then you bend your tape rule this way. Then you continue the measuring. So you measure it to the edge here, right? So here I have 19.5. So remember, this 19.5 is just from here to this place for just the front only. So you have to consider the back part too. So if I'm having 19.5 for the front plus 19.5 for the back, that would be let's do the calculation together. 19.5 plus 19.5. So here I'm having 9 plus 9. Okay, so this is 39, right? So here we have 39. So the full wrap that we want now is 39. So here we've calculated 39. So now we have to determine how full we want it. So like mine, point I use times 2.5. So as I said earlier, you can use times 3, times 2.5, or times 2, depending on how wide your fabric is, or how full you want it, and how many yards of fabric you have left. So let's say, for example, now we want to use times 2. So I'm going to use 39 times 2, which will give us 70 78, right? So this is it now. So I need 78 inches long. That is 78 inches by width. Then the length depend on how long you want it. So you can use between 8, 9, 10. 10 is okay, because you don't want it to be too long, instead that it will be longer than the initial length that you have here, right? So let's say, for example, now we're using 8 inches. So that 8 inches now, the 8 inches, you now add your half an inch that you use and sew in this place, plus the one you use to hem the down part. So let's say 1.5 to end the down part, plus half an inch to sew on this place, which is 2 inches. So we are adding 2 inches to this 8, which is give us 10 inches. So what we need now is 78 inches width, 78 inches width, and 10 inches length, right? So 10 inches by length and 78 inches width, right? So that's what we are needing now. So I'm going to cut it and come back and show you. You keep this aside, please don't throw this away. It's very important, because you're going to sew this back so that your side, it will not reveal your side. Some people still throw it away, right? They will just place the wrap on it like this way, and the gathers will be the one to fall on it. So that's another style. But if you will not be comfortable showing your side, revealing your side, please don't throw this away, because you are going to sew this back, right? So I don't know, before I cut this out, I've already sew my zip allowance here. So you have to sew your zip allowance close. I'm going to open this later on to add my zip, but you need to sew this place close. So this is it now. So you sew this place close, right? And another thing again is that so that you can walk freely, because it's a pencil skirt that we've made before, so that we can have a fitted garment, so that you can walk freely. You lose this place and sew it to somewhere here, right? So this place will now be your vein or your opening, so for you to walk freely at the back, right? So then from here to here, because we are going to sew this back. So let's cut the 78 inches width and 10 inches by length fabric, and then I'll come back and show you. So this is it. I've already cut the long fabric that I mentioned earlier. So I said we'll measure 10 inches depth, right? That's length 10 inches, but because it's a half scale pattern, I make use of 5 inches, which is I have to divide it by 2 again, so that it will not be too big. Then the width, please do not divide that, because the width is exact what we measure from here to here, so we have to use the exact measurement. Now if you have cutting the long fabric here, what I did here now is that I have to, so that I will have the gathers a bit full fuller, I make use of um the inches that we used earlier, which is the measuring of this place from here to here. We have 19.5, right? Then 19.5 um plus 19.5, which is what we have, 39, right? So that 39 we now times it by 2, we now have 78, right? So here I'm having, instead of 78, here I have 88. 88. So I just make use of the full, it was a long brown paper, right? You can see that I even joined some parts here, so I've already joined it. So I have this full length, which I don't want to waste it or cut excess out of it, so I'm going to make use of it as it is. So I have 88 here, but you can go ahead and times it by 3, by 2.5, whichever amount you have, you can make use of that. But I'm going to make use of what I have here. So what I have here again is 88 by width and 5 inches length. So I'm going to divide this into 2 and cut it. So I will divide it into 2, then cut it and come back and show you. So here is it. I've already divided it into 2. So this is 1, right? This is 1, and this is the other one, 2. So I'm going to gather each of them. I'm going to gather it in a way that it will accommodate here. So I'm going to gather it and come back and show you. So this is it. I've already gathered it, right? And then this is my front part. So you also gather the other one too. So I will remove this thing now, then focus on this. So I'm going to place the gathers now, starting from this point that I came down with. So I'll place the gathers this way, right? I'll place it this way, then sew on it along. So you can use quarter of an inch for now, right? So I'm going to follow it up like this until when I get to this place. So I will do that and come back and show you. So this is it. So you can go ahead. So here I've already gathered it, so you can see it. I've gathered it starting from this mark that I mentioned earlier, then gather it to this place. Then these pieces that you cut out, you can see it. So I place it on top, starting from the hip where I cut it out to the edge here. So I place it on it, then and I stitch on it from here that the cut starts from. So stitch on it to this place. So in that way you will have your complete full skirt. And this is the gather. So the gathers is going to fall on this side, right? So these are the gathers is going to be. So this is how you achieve your wrap skirt with gathers at the side, right? So imagine now that you place this one on it like this and stitch it, so it will be like this. So this is the full garment, right? You can see how beautiful it is. So having it this way, so this is how it's going to be. So you do the same thing for the back part. You sew your zip at the back part, then you also do the same thing that I did here for the back part, right? Then you place the back on it, right side face each other, then you shape out your side. Then when you place the back on it, you fold this inside, right? You fold this inside, so your seam allowance is still here. Your seam allowance is still here, right? So we are going to stitch on this place for your seam allowance. You can also place your lining too on it like this. Now place your lining on top, so sew this place close, right? Then drag it up the way we used to close our lining, right? So that you can have lining on it, or you even sew the lining before cutting this place. So whichever way you want to use and achieve it. So you also do the same thing that I did here now for the back parts. Then you place it together, you sew this place close, then you now have this place together this way. You can see how beautiful it is, right? Then you now have this place too. You sew this with the back part to close it. So that is how you go about this style, and it will come out so beautiful. So guys, This is the final look. You can see how beautiful the front is. Wow. So this is how you go about it, right? So in this way you still have this part intact, so you don't need to, it will not reveal any part of your body. You can see how the wrap part is, you can see how beautiful it is. So if you like this tutorial and you have watched to this stage, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you next time. Bye.